Publishing outsourcing. That's one of the other ones that we kind of popped up on LinkedIn, and there's a lot of people that are commenting and talking about it. And it kind of fits into what we're talking about, because essentially there's different ways to do workflow, but what it boils down to is, even if you're still outsourcing, sending high-quality XML to your service providers is a way to save money, as well as increase the quality just from the get-go. And so, of course, the Intelligent Content Tools demo, I'll be running through a quick government publication. Some of our government clients use this process. It'll be a very brief overview. It'll give you the flavor. Certainly, maybe if today goes very well, we'll have a few other webinars and we can get into some more details with other items. Pradeep Jain, the owner of Ictect, will also be running through how we tag and format books and journals, and he'll get into a little more of the nitty-gritty as far as the XML and things like that. And, of course, questions. Those are always appreciated and welcome. So I'll just kind of give you a few things to mull over in your mind before I get going here. Publishing outsourcing. What are the issues with publishing outsourcing? Of course, everyone's heard the horror stories. Everyone probably in attendance has experienced some issues either with quality, communication, employee turnover. So there needs to be, I guess, better ways of doing things, and so that's kind of what we're here to explore. And there's a variety of ways that those problems can be answered. And of course, we'll show you our flavor of how we get around some of the issues. Of course, XML can be done in-house. You can do that for simpler items, and that's going to save you some time as well as some money. Now, a lot of people are like, well, I don't have the infrastructure. I don't want to set up that. So skipping down to the last point there, there's hybrid XML processes. You take your simpler books, journals, content, what have you. You do it in-house. You send the more complex stuff out to service providers. And that's always an option. And, of course, XML can be done by authors or editors. Now, immediately, I know there's people that are going to be like, oh, my gosh, this guy cannot be talking about giving our authors the power of XML. What we're proposing is essentially a light version. We'll have them do XML without them knowing XML. That's kind of the thing, because people get intimidated when they see the technical stuff. So what I'll briefly be covering, and then of course I encourage discussion as well. There's certainly many ways to get XML out, and certainly many ways of doing XML first. Matter of fact, there's many ways to define XML first. So please don't think that we are saying, hey, you absolutely have to do it this way, and this is the one true way. We're certainly not suggesting that. What we do have is a patented XML platform. We do encourage XML tagging at the very earliest stage, either by authors or editors, sometimes both. We found that this avoids a lot of quality and turnaround time issues as well. And of course, I mentioned this does sit inside of Microsoft Word. So with that being said, and without too much more ado, I will put this up at the end. This is kind of our information. Jim Hill, as I'm sure most of you are familiar with, is one of the gentlemen that had started a lot of these conversations on LinkedIn. He is a great guy to reach out to. He's got a very in-depth knowledge of the space that we're dealing with, and so we'll put his contact information up here as well at the end. Okay. So what I've got right here is a Word document. This is a draft that one of our clients is quite familiar with and uses, and our client in this case is the Air Force. We're inside of Microsoft Word. We haven't changed anything. I really want to stress that this is not like an exporter tool or something where you cut and paste and move things, or you have to go up here, open it as a different file, save as this, and do all sorts of contortions to get what you need out of it. We've worked with tools like that, and it's quite frustrating. So I'll just scroll through here real quick. You can kind of see some of the content. They have a pretty complex numbering system. I mean, they can go out to almost 7 places the way they do it. So we've got some tables in here. I believe there's a figure. Oh yeah, we've got. Well, and so and we've got some interesting content that they need in that particular arrangement. So I'll go back up to the top here. So again, we're inside of Microsoft Word. Our tool sits inside of what we call the Intelligent Content tab. Go ahead and click that. We've tried to arrange it simply and organize the tools in the functionality that they would, or what the functionality they would pertain to. For now, I'm not going to go into all of these. We're going to basically do a one-shot deal where I'm going to go to the entire document and I'm going to go ahead and I want to tag the whole publication, or in case the basic publication as they call it. So I'll hit basic publication. I immediately get, if you see a little blue box up there that says document structure, it immediately opens up, and when it's done tagging and converting, it's going to show me essentially the XML structure right in that little floating box. So that's always nice, I guess, when you're done, because you can see, okay, yes, it is what I need it to be. So like I said before earlier, what I'm showing you is probably we'll call it a cross demo. This is a demo between what an author or an editor could do. Certainly the editor would want to get more in depth, and the author probably would want to pick and choose what I wanted to show today for sake of time. All right, we've got the green check mark. That's always a good sign. So tagging status is complete. Okay. For now, I'm just going to move this box over here. You know what? I'm going to go turn my para markers off. That's just going to make it a little cleaner. All right, back to intelligent content. Okay, so we've got our XML structure all laid out here nicely. For now, I'm not going to get into this. Pradeep can certainly go into more of the XML. The XML is in the document now. It's there, but I'm going to go to my author mode, and it's something I don't want to see. It's intimidating to me, so I'm going to move on. We're going to run a compliance check. Let me just close this out. So one of the biggest things is, garbage in, garbage out. If I cannot be assured that this is compliant with a variety of things for my particular company, it is really kind of pointless to do this inside of Microsoft Word. So we've got 4 checks. All these checks are generally adjusted on a client basis. We've got some clients that have 60 or so checks run. I pick version check, XML check, exceptions check, and ID check. The last 2 I will explain a little bit more in detail. So I'll go ahead and run them all. That's going to go through the document pretty quickly. Any issues are going to appear as kind of a blue hyperlink with the number of issues counted inside the parentheses. So XML check, I have 1, exception, those types of things. So I'm just going to go to the first one here. And as soon as I click there, it actually brings me to that particular area in the document. In this case, it's an attachment. I happen to know that attachment, this particular section of content doesn't have a title, and therefore, you're missing not only a title, but your XML tags that, say title or whatever other information you're putting there. So let me go back here to my exceptions. Oops. There we go. So my first exception here, if I go up to the top, is essentially this figure. For whatever reason, this is not fitting inside of the rule set that the Air Force had. Now let me go to the second exception here. I think that will explain a little bit more. The reason we have exceptions is, now some people may disagree with me, but sooner or later, every client that we've had, regardless of how many rules and how carefully they laid out their schema or DTD, there's always something that someone forgot, or it doesn't fit, or there's a one-of document or publication they're going to do, and they're just like, oh man, this is just not going to work out. So we've put these exceptions inside the tool that allows you to use your discretion and say, okay, listen, I'm going to keep it the way it is. Yes, I know it doesn't fit into all the rules that we have, but it's not going to affect how I progress with my workflow, i.e. it's not going to crash anything. It's not going to screw up the whole, all the XML tagging and things like that. All right, excuse me. Okay, so let's move on to the ID checks. Now, I've got a table here. It's A8.1. Now, if I just scroll up, let me just go up to here. And so logic is probably going to dictate to me this should probably be table 2. This is an easy cut and paste mistake. We see it all the time. It's very easy. If you're looking for tables, figures, chunks of content that is not necessarily yours, it's very easy to pull in whatever the source cited this as or whatever the source called this. So that's something I'd have to correct. Moving on to the next one here. Okay, so the next one is down here, and it is 39.42. What that is obviously a duplicate numbering system. I got 39.42 on the top, 39.42 on the bottom. Now what I'm going to do, just for demo, is I'm going to correct this right here, right now. And this is generally how this would work. So I have 39.41, and then it goes to 42. I'm going to run the checks again, but I want you to pay attention to the ID checks. It's kind of interesting. The way we have it set up, think of it as a double entry system, much like accounting. We list all the errors, not twice. Twice would be the wrong way to explain that, but we list it in such a way that many times an ID or an issue will come up and it'll look like it's being repeated, because essentially our tool has identified this as an error as well as this. It's not telling you which one to change, it's just telling you both are the same. This is very helpful because down the road a lot of people have good intentions. They go ahead, they start making edits in the document, and they create more problems than they're solving. So I've made this one correction. I'm going to run the check again, and you pay attention to the ID checks. We have 3 issues now. If I run that, okay, and we're down to 1 issue. Essentially, I took care of this one. It's 3.1, and this is, I'm sorry, 4.1, and this is 4.2 now. 2 of the issues we have. So I'm going to close this. We're going to assume that I went through and I very carefully corrected every mistake that the document has, and we're going to move on to formatting. The formatting, what we have is we call them formatting templates, and they're set up. Each client has a variety of them. In this case, I've just picked one. I put it in here, and this is what we have for an end result. But it's organized very much like Microsoft Word, because if you get to the point where you need to be sending either a complete file for publication or a complete manuscript or manual, it kind of assures people that they can. Some people say, well, listen, I really need to see how it's going to look, because I've met authors that actually like to see formatted stuff as they write. They say it helps their creative process. I don't know if that's true. I'm not a writer, so I'm not going to comment too much on that. But we'll go ahead and format that. And, of course, create metadata, table of contents automatically. OK. OK. Now I have the document structure opens back up again. It's assuring me that, yes, all the XML is still inside the file. It's still inside the Word document. I'm going to close that for now. But we've got a formatted document. We're ready for the seal to be inserted. Actually, let me go. We'll go to a print preview here, just to show everybody here. That looks good. Okay. So yeah, so we've got the hyperlinks called out automatically. All the content is in its proper place. We scroll down. We've got our table 1. We have our table 2. That's, you're going to pretend that's corrected, because that's what I was supposed to do. But so everything looks very nice, and then of course we've got the that chunk of content that was, I guess, discretionary on my part, because I decided, hey, that is correct. We're going to keep it the way we want it. So let's go back. Okay. So that concludes kind of, I guess you'd say, for our government clients demo. I'm going to turn it over to Pradeep Jain, the owner of Ictect. He's going to get into a little more detail as far as XML, but also for journals and for books specifically. So with that, Pradeep.
Hello, everybody. So I'm going to make myself the presenter here and move on to the demo of my journals and books. I will get a little bit more technical than Aaron, so I'll sort of walk you through a little bit more in depth in the XML. And to begin with, I'm going to open this article, journal article. So let's go ahead and double click on it. Now, one of the things that you would notice is that when I open my doc file, the XML structure is automatically shown up. And that's part of our plugin. The XML is always retained in the document, and the structure is always there. Now, how we get the XML structure and how the intelligent content plays in this case, I'm going to move to the intelligent content tab, and notice we have a number of different groups here. So we have the tagging group, and Aaron used a little bit on the full document tagging, but that's actually configured for the different types of documents. So for example, when you look at the journal, it's actually configured according to the JATS schema. The components that you have on the journal are the front matter of the body, the back matter, and what we call common elements. So for example, the front matter components will include the metadata, article metadata, title, and things like that. When you look at the body, we have sections and signature block. Looking at for example, the back matter, and I will actually be taking some examples from here, and then some of the common elements. So now, some of you would be familiar with, for example, the insertion of metadata items in the document, and that's all highlighted with the green color coding here. But let's go through and take a look at a little bit of the XML. We will create more XML here, and we show you what actually already exists in this document. So if you look at the article structure, it has the front, and then the body, and then the back. And of course, the XML is created by using the different buttons that you have here. In the front, we have the journal metadata, the article metadata, and then within the article, categories, and so on and so forth. Some of the items are invalid, some of the items are valid. What I'm going to show you actually is moving on to, well, let's look at the body, and then we have some, section 1, section 2, section 3, section 4. There's a little bit of navigation that you can do. For example, if I click on section, it takes me there. If I open it and want to see something, I can easily see it. Now, so let's go to the back of this manuscript and look at, for example, this is the acknowledgement section with the title and then the paragraph. And what I'm going to do is sort of focus on this reference area, which is generally considered more complex in journals. So there's a few references that I'm going to tag, and then I will also show you the XML in the structure tree as well as in the document. So once again, this is sort of more of the editorial, or also sort of the service provider approach to working in this document. So let's take the first item, and that's this one. And actually, let me go ahead and move this so you can see it in entirety. So this is actually a reference to a journal. So let's go ahead and select it all, and I'm going to just tag this piece. Okay. In order to tag, now notice that right now we have the back, the acknowledgement, and no references. If I need to tag it, I'll go ahead and select the back matter or end matter element, and then I'm going to select this thing called the reference item. So when I select the reference item, notice what happens here is the XML for this reference item is automatically created. So what is in that XML? Well, let's take a look at it. So we have the label part, which, as you can see from the green color, was actually added by the service provider or by the editor. Then you look at element citation, and notice that we have the person group there, consisting of 1, 2, 3, and 4 authors. Each author with its surname and given name. This is all according to the JATS requirement. When we so let's take a look at unit 6 after that. So we get the year, the article title, the source, volume, first page, and last page. And how this actually happens is the software is very easily configured according to your journal styles. So typically, when the journal publishers would have clear examples of how references should be presented in the document, or if you're following the AMA or other style guidelines, those are incorporated in our tagging structure. I'll do a couple more tags. We'll also talk about this valid and invalid structure here. So let's actually go ahead and select the next one, and let's go back to this one, and then click on the reference item, and notice now we have 1, 2 references. Same thing, label, element group, in this case one name followed by year, title, so on and so forth. Now the XML is validated against the schema. In this case, everything else is valid except that the element citation needs an attribute. So that actually can be added from here. And once again, this is available in different ways. This is the more raw view, but there's also other ways that this information can be added by more easy to access buttons. Now let's tag one more, and then we will take a look at the XML in the document itself. So go ahead and then select that, and then let's say reference item, and now notice that we have the reference 1, 2, and 3, and reference number 3 has 3 authors, and then you have the year, article title, and so on and so forth. How the XML actually is shown in the document, you can click on, for example, let's say if I want to see the reference 3 XML, I can click on, do a right click, and then click on this item called Show XML. So when I click on Show XML, it shows me the XML structure in the document, in its entirety. This is so you can see this is all the XML that's done in our automated tagging. I can see it in a different view as well. So for example, if I were to go in here of this one, and then do a right click and then say hide XML, then there is a slightly different, a more user-friendly view. So for example, when I place my cursor over here, it says me that this is my element citation. This, for example, is a name, surname, given name, so on and so forth. So let me go ahead and actually remove the XML from the document. So I just click on this button, and no XML anymore. That's sort of how we would do the tagging of a journal manuscript. Now let's close this, and I actually do want to show you the the JATS compliant XML. So we'll actually easily get it from clicking on the XML export button here, which you can see coming according to the JATS schema. And then you can see that there is the front matter, there is the body consisting of. So let's actually take a look at the front matter. You've got the general metadata, article metadata. Then you have the sections, the introduction section, the methods, the results, description. The few references that I believe we tagged about 3. So that's our reference 1, that's our reference 2, and that's our reference 3. And then of course the rest of the references are untagged. So this shows what can be accomplished by tagging itself. Now I'd like to show you a formatted version as well of a journal article. We are certainly not trying to suggest that you use Microsoft Word for composing or formatting your journals, but we do know that many of you publishing journals have the first edition and the final edition. And the first edition is something that's needed, very much, ASAP. As soon as the publication is accepted, and oftentimes, it does not contain much formatting. It may look close to the final, but you have still more work to do, as well as changes that could be made from between the first edition and the final edition. So what we've actually done here is from the format button or from the intelligent content tab, you have a formatting template that lets you create the first edition. And the first edition is created actually in Microsoft Word itself. The first edition contains XML, as you can see easily. All of the XML is preserved so that your time investment in the manuscript, in bringing it to this point, is all is all preserved. But the output looks like a nicely formatted Word document. And let me actually go to the print mode, and you can actually see what the first edition formatting looks like. Let's try to make it a little bit smaller. And notice this is the first page, this is the second page, and then moving on to the references. So it helps more in an end-to-end XML workflow, and of course you can share the first edition with the authors, and the authors can make changes electronically as opposed to making it on a PDF or making it on a printed copy and scanning it. So in those types of situations, this can be very helpful. I'm going to move on to my second demo now, which is the book demonstration. So let me go ahead and make a quick change. And this time, when we switch to the Intelligent Content tab, you notice that we have other elements, because this one has been configured according to the docbook schema. So for example, if you look at the front matter elements, you have more of the book elements that make sense to authors and editors, cover, acknowledgement, dedication, forward, etc. In the body, the parts and chapters and matter elements common, as well as some good amount of interactivity that can be brought in a Microsoft Word document and can be output to the PDF, to the EPUB format. The other thing you will see is, well, so all of these tools are still there, but the formatting templates, we have multiple formatting templates that illustrate the different book outputs that can be obtained from your tag document, as well as the final PDF or EPUB outputs. So let's go ahead and open a document which is our own book here, and notice that our structure page opens up, and once again, very familiar now. We have the book consisting of different components here, all obtained through the tagging that we have in the intelligent content tab. So again, the body elements, the front button elements, and so on and so forth. Now, looking at info, you can go down and look at for example the publisher information and the granular tagging of city state. This all happens automatically, but you do have tools to tag things manually. So for example, let's say if I needed to, let's just go ahead and remove the remove the tags for these items here. So let's go ahead and I'll drop the markup, and now I have my address information. If I were to tag the city and state manually, I can simply go ahead and then click on the tagger. That gives me the manual tagging option. So for example, in this case, if I'm going to tag the city, go ahead and say city, and then notice that it's added there. So on and so forth. Once the document is tagged, of course, then you have your formatting template. So in this case, I'm going to actually pick the formatted document, which is, I believe, formatted with the traditional style. So you can go ahead and open that. So that's the Word formatting. And once again, we are not suggesting here that you format your complex books with Microsoft Word. For the complex books, you're still going to need InDesign or whatever composition approach that you're using. But we have simpler books formatted in an end-to-end workflow within Microsoft Word itself. To show you the XML, let's go back to the tag document, and let's just go ahead and click on the XML button, which brings up the XML. And once again, we talked about high quality XML, getting high quality XML without any of the stuff from Microsoft Word. So you can see that we have the cover here, the media objects, the abstract, publisher, and notice that we had tagged the city, I believe. So that's tagged in here, and preface, sections, and all of that. So this can be used in your XML workflow. Once again, our emphasis is on early XML tagging. So that comes either from your editors or from your authors, and helps in streamlining the entire process. So that ends sort of the demonstration. I did have a question here that was asked, and if you have questions, please do raise your hands here. I guess there's a menu there that tells you if you want to ask a question, and then you can type your questions, or if you want to ask a question, we can make you the presenter here, or we can make you we can put you on unmute. Now, one of the questions that was asked was about which schema or DTD is used. So the answer is for the Air Force publications that Aaron showed, it's actually a subset of what is called a MIL-STD, a MIL-SPEC schema. For journals, we use the JATS, and then for books, it's DocBook. DocBook is, of course, heavily customized for different environments, or you select a proper subset, and that's quite all right. But these are the schemas and DTDs that we have used in our product. So, are there any questions at this point? Let me see. Okay, so one of the questions I see is that, so the author must know which tags to add, or is there a guide? The answer to that question is, if you are distributing the plugin to the author, you do actually have to know a little bit more about the books and configure it, especially if you want them to do fully automated tagging. We do accommodate a significant amount of variability in the use of styles, etc. But the answer is yes. It may be necessary for the author sometimes to know which tags to add. I would also say that the more familiarity that you have with the style of the authors, the easier it is to make the plugin available to them. Okay, the next question is, does all the content entered into Word must have a tag? What happens if the author does not tag content? Now, the answer to that question is, it really is up to the DTD or the schema as to must everything be tagged. If the DTD requires everything to be tagged, then it must be tagged. Otherwise, you'll see those invalid icons in the structure tree. Now, we don't actually prevent or stop anybody from working. You can continue to work in an invalid document, as long as you want. But of course, if you're using any other XML-based system, valid XML would be a requirement in most cases, I would say. Okay, let's see. Book version of the tool generates dark book tagging. Any option to generate the bits JATs for books? Yes, we certainly have. We can configure the tool to generate the bits tagging in a very similar way. The focus here is actually bringing the familiar components to the forefront, and the mapping of XML behind the scenes is actually fairly straightforward. Any data support? Yes, we do have data support. There is actually another demonstration that we have that we will be doing at a later time, but that is more geared for technical publications and uses fairly similar approach, with the components being your concepts and topics and references. So that way, yes, data is also supported. We can actually support any schema or DTD, or many of the publishers that have their custom schemas can also be incorporated in the tool. And that actually is the next question. Can any DTD be integrated in the tool? Yes. Okay, and this question, how do you handle the character decimal alignment in a table column? I'm not sure what you mean by character decimal alignment in a table column. I'll have to take that offline. How does the system handle the conversion of mathematical content created in Microsoft Equation Editor or MathType? So many of you are familiar with the plugin from Design Sciences called MathML plugin, and we support that MathML plugin. Now, the XML does need to be integrated, because you get the MathML output from that plugin, but it's all supported within the Microsoft Word environment. Can we start with XML and create a structured Word document with XML that would be sent to authors for editing, correcting? Would the authors need this plugin? So you have to think about your workflow. You can actually start an XML document in Microsoft Word. You can create a tagged formatted document. Let me go ahead and open one of the formatted documents here. So, for example, if I'm looking at something like this can be created from an XML document. The versions of Word 2007 onwards support actually a style sheet, that can apply the XML. And you have to be careful though, because what happens is oftentimes the XML that you are importing from the past may have too much details that the authors not necessarily care about. For example, if you just look at the inline formatting, the bold and the italic and tagging every single thing, that may not be necessary in the event that you're communicating that with the authors. But yes, it is possible to create a clean looking Microsoft Word tagged document that you can send to authors and have them make corrections. I should point out that it's actually fairly easy or standard to use track changes in Microsoft Word. So, for example, if I were to go ahead and turn on track changes, so I can go ahead and say, okay, this is my okay. So let's go ahead and make some edit. So this is my content editing. If I want to do, let's go to the tag mode, and we can see the tags. You can actually also make corrections such that the tags are also deleted, so they are part of the correction process, and that's fairly standard Microsoft Word functionality. So yes, in an XML to author workflow, this can be very helpful. Would the authors need this plugin? No, not necessarily this plugin. It will depend on what you want them to do. If the author editor workflow is that the authors make their corrections and the editors use the plugin to finally validate the document, and the editors are the only ones that would need the plugin. So can we add our own business rules validation in the compliance check? Yes. The compliance check is generally derived from either the guidelines. For example, in the case of the DoD organizations, they have their guidelines pretty well defined, and that's where the compliance rules come from. Generally, if you have, for example, either an editorial guide or a style guide or an author guide, that becomes the basis for the compliance, the validation rules. Okay, next question is, what are the types of reference entries, journals, books, conference, patents, legal, web, etc. How are they handled in this tool? So how they are actually handled is, first of all, there is the alignment with your style guide. So how do you want your authors to enter, for example, book reference or conference reference or patent reference? And then the more alignment there is, the more automated tagging that you get. In the event that there is misalignment or not compliance, then those manual corrections have to be made, and it's in those situations that you would actually use the individual tagging items. In the case of manuscript, we almost never have seen that you can obtain the full XML just by the click of a button. There are references, you're going in there and then you're making changes and then you're tagging them, and that's why you have the individual items here.